next question is for Mike Suleiman and Don Guardian. How should New Jersey strengthen public education funding, educator retention, and equitable opportunities for students while balancing state oversight with local control? And Mike, I'll start with you.
Sure. I have 2 minutes. A minute or 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I'll take a quick sidebar from education and say, and I say this with respect to my friend Vince, it's no surprise we went to announce Trump when he brought Donald Trump Jr. down to a fundraiser right here in Galloway Township 6 years ago for a super PAC. So let's correct the record there, number one. Number two, let's talk about education. I like the fact a couple weeks ago, I think the State Department of Education announced they're going to update their curriculum, particularly focused on AI and children's well-being. I think that's really important. Clearly, COVID screwed up our kids. I'm being honest with you. Being in the house that long, we showed, I think, that remote learning did not work for younger kids. For older kids in high school, it worked, but for young kids, it did not work. And our kids really need some help here, so we need to help them, number one. Number two, I agree with probably everybody on this panel. We've got to look at the school funding formula every 5 years. That's important. I think for Atlantic County, we've got to look at ACIT. ACIT is a great institution. I'm going to ribbon cutting. I think some probably folks here are going to ribbon cutting next week. But I understand the concern by school districts that they're getting a hit, right? They send the kids, they're still on the hook for the cost of that, and obviously that hurts their bottom line. I'm sure, Summer's point, you can see the feeling. You probably have some kids going there to ACIT and you're still on the hook for them. So we've got to figure out a whole harmless approach to that. I think we've got to figure out how that looks. And overall though, Summer's point, I think it's, mainland, so far our districts are in good shape for this year's budget, but obviously we've got to make sure that we write inequities. I know some shaking no, but some of the bigger ones are, but we've got to write inequities so that we have a fair funding formula, because we should not be subsidizing North Jersey districts like Jersey City, which has been overfunded for decades. And Pleasantville, thank you.
So I think education is the fuel waste and the circle of poverty. And our schools need to be providing the skill sets so you can have a successful life. We're spending $12 billion now in the state to reimburse our local school districts to try to provide equitable education. Funding is not enough. Cost of special needs alone at $100,000 per child is more than a local municipality can take. It really needs to be paid for by the state. It certainly should be coming from the existing sales tax that we have. We have to address the fact that we can't find teachers, so we have to make it more attractive, and part of that's going to be paying for the cost of education. If they give us 5 or 10 years of service, it has to be with getting back to the COLA, so they get a cost of living adjustment once they retire, so they have a decent life after they're giving us their services. Okay, wait for 30 seconds. And we also have to realize that the current pension system is just out of whack. It takes 2 or 3 years for a teacher to realize that they're getting screwed. You have to go back to one system for everyone. So they give us their 20, 25 years, then they have a comfortable life afterwards. We have to also realize that every school district is different, and some are more difficult. We got to understand when English is a second language. We got to understand when poverty makes a single-parent family work 2 jobs and isn't there to provide the same type of services. We got to realize that some families don't appreciate the value of education. We got to realize that there are special needs that our children have. So these things all have to be addressed. A municipality can no longer afford that. It's a responsibility of the state. It's all of our responsibilities. Educate our kids, give them the skill sets, let them have a successful life.
Okay, so we're going to give this one a little bit more time. I'll take up to 3 more participants, 30 seconds each. Anything to add to our question for public education? I'll start with Shep.
Public education in general?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, I'm a public educated child from Atlantic City. It's very important that we take care of our kids in school. Notably, when I worked at a program at the Yale Academy, which is where they send wayward children, and ones who can't work in the public system, what I noticed was the first thing those kids did when they came in the door was go to where? The lunch line, the breakfast. They get their breakfast. So the teachers were baffled by Friday. They're going home. Why are they all upset? They didn't understand. I had to explain it to them. Because every day, the first thing they do is come get their breakfast. they won't have any food until Monday morning. That's the reality of our school system. We need to feed our kids, help them.
So this is one where you absolutely need to involve all the educators and the teachers, and I think that's one of the strengths that we have had here over the last 4 years is interacting with the educational community and trying to figure out what we can do to assist. I've said many times, teachers are the second most important people in children's lives, just so critical to their development. And so we need to work with people like Melissa and others that are in that situation every day trying to do the job. There's a lot of things burdens that the state puts on some of our teachers that we could relax, try to make their jobs easier. And so there are a number of things that can be done, again, working with the people who have to do it every day.
I'm sorry, I lost track. With the school funding, just for a moment, in full disclosure, the first time I did research about the school funding formula when I was running my campaign, and to me, as not an educator, it appears relatively equitable. And I recently had a conversation with Melissa where she seemed to agree, but that there are tweaks need to be made. There's currently a bill pending the school funding formula task force, which I think is a great idea. I would like to be a part of that task force to make the funding formula as efficient and as fair as possible.
Just chiming in here on the question of public education in general. I just want to make it clear because in the first sort of questions, I want to give the opportunity to give the benefit of the doubt to our Republican legislators. Just something so that we're all aware of. In the last week, the federal administration sued New Jersey over its in-state tuition and financial aid law that basically allows undocumented immigrants access to public education, higher education, and I definitely want to put that on our legislators' radar of what's to come in the next week, in case they weren't aware of it. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is housing. It has been brought up already. We do have a specific question for Senator Palestina and Assemblywoman Rowan. Housing affordability has become one of the most urgent issues facing New Jersey. What is necessary to expand affordable housing while protecting residents from displacement? Senator Palestina?
Thank you. So this has been a topic in New Jersey since 1985 when what was known as the Mount Laurel decision was enacted, a Supreme Court decision which said municipalities could not use their zoning powers to exclude provisions for low and moderate income housing. That has been twisted and turned throughout the years. So what we are doing now is not really creating affordable housing. We are creating subsidized housing. Because what happens in some of these projects are the 100% affordable projects. They are getting tax credits, which is taking tax revenue away from the state to build the projects. That is being paid for by your income taxes, your other sales taxes going to the state. And so that is a cost that everyone is paying. The inclusionary developments, where you have to have 20% of the units which are affordable, those 20% of the units are being subsidized by the other 80% of market rate units. And so we're not really creating affordable housing in this state. We are subsidizing the creation of certain units. And it has an impact on taxes in all these municipalities. So what we have said is that we got to, again, take a step back. Create housing that is affordable. You know, they're doing some things now, and you saw some of this at the federal level, where some of these corporations are coming in and buying up homes and driving up rents for some of these communities because they can, because they have an uncompetitive advantage where they're not paying interest on a mortgage. They have the ability to go in and pay cash for these homes, and then they're able to drive up rents. We need to stop these types of things which are driving up housing costs across the state. And then we, again, just like healthcare, need to look at what is really driving up the cost of housing in the state. The property taxes are a significant concern. If we keep working on that, that will lower those issues. And then you need to look at actually what is going on in some of these areas where the costs are being exacerbated by some of these permitting rules and development rules and all of the other things going on in New Jersey. So there is a way to do it, but we need to take a step back and really review how housing is getting driven up in cost.
As I indicated, I think in response to the first question, this is a crisis. And there's simply a lack, and I'm not going to say subsidized housing, affordable housing. There's currently a bill pending, the accessory dwelling unit bill, which would allow, as the name indicates, accessory dwelling on properties zoned for single family. We need more housing. That is the bottom line. There's also a law pending about eviction fees, how they should not be the way they are implemented so that people don't become homeless because of these eviction fees. There, in Atlantic City, there are many, many abandoned houses that I said, let's do what Italy did, offer the houses for $1 on the understanding that the person gets in there, fixes it up, and stays there. It's not a flip, it's a place to stay. And there has to be some type of incentivized tax credits, whatever it takes for people to build affordable housing for the people that are working and need a house because it's just becoming unsustainable, the situation that we're currently in.
Okay, we're going to move on to one of the lightning round questions, and I'm going to start over with Mike. Is Atlantic County doing enough to address homelessness, and what is one change you would like to make immediately?
Well, I would say look at Atlantic City. I remember years ago, even Governor Christie talked about it. Of course, never got done. Shocker under Christie. A single port of entry to help homeless folks. So if they were house insecure, to help them. If they had mental health disease, you could help them. If they had addiction, you could help them. That never happened, right? And you clearly see Atlantic and Pacific Avenue, folks experiencing homelessness are all over the streets. We need to help those folks. Those are God's children, like everybody here is one of God's children. So we need to help those folks. I don't think we're doing enough. And it's not just an urban issue. Clearly, I live in Galloway Township. All the hotels along the White House Pike, they're full of folks experiencing homelessness. We got to build more housing. It's supply and demand. Get more housing, the price comes down, and get people some help.
I was born in Atlantic City, and sometimes it feels like I am getting priced out of my own city. The rent's getting higher. A lot of politicians sort of are doing a lot of infighting to try to figure out what's happening, and all the while, like, the landlord is collecting his rent. And so I can understand how people become displaced. I'm 30 years old, but I finally understand how within a year someone can go from living with their family to living on the streets. And so I think we're always sort of missing this empathetic aspect of it, that these are real human beings and not just numbers and not just part of a budget. And so as long as we have this dialogue with empathy, I think we'll be fine.